Castlevania is Konami's long-running game franchise that contains many monsters and other supernatural threats, which have varying levels of originality. Much of what they borrow from would be considered by most as the classics, like zombies, wolfmen, mummies, Frankenstein's monsters, death, and of course, the main antagonist, Dracula. But Konami isn't always afraid to get a bit more obscure. Truth be told, this was inspired by another video on the YouTube channel Didyouknowgaming called Castlevania in History, narrated by the one and only Markiplier. If you like what you see here, please go check that out. And for the sake of not sounding redundant, I'll refrain from repeating any information from that video. For now. I also need to give props to Castlevania Enemy Origins, a site dedicated to unraveling the truth of Castlevania's, well, enemies. That was another motivator to make this, so I'll leave links to that and the Did You Know Gaming video in the description. In Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow for the DS, you must travel to the Abyss if you want the best ending, and along the way, you must fight Abaddon. Abaddon is the Hebrew word for doom. He is sometimes called Apollyon, the Greek version of the word. In the Bible, Apollyon refers to both a place of destruction and the archangel who rules over the abyss. In the New Testament, however, the angel Abaddon controls an army of locusts, much like he does in Castlevania. Another enemy to reappear in some Castlevania games is Persephone, who is, of course, the wife of Hades in Greek mythology. In Castlevania, though, she is a common maid of Dracula's castle, attacking with a vacuum and martial arts skills. I'm assuming that Hades is hanging around here somewhere as a busboy. It's clear that the reference stands in name alone, but I find this different interpretation interesting at the very least. A reoccurring boss in the series is Dullahan, the Headless Swordsman. He comes from Irish folklore where he, or in some cases she, is called the Dullahan, the Durahan, or even the Dullagan. The Dullahan in folklore is a headless rider with a spinal whip and candle-holding skulls in its carriage. It's a bad omen for the Dullahan to stop its ride. After they stop, they will simply call out somebody's name. Then that person will die. The only thing the Castlevania boss has in common with its Irish counterpart is the head itself, which is depicted with a color and texture very similar to that of moldy cheese, which makes sense considering he's probably been dead for a while. In Castlevania Symphony of the Night, there is an enemy called Duron, which you can find in the Long Library. The design differentiates from Irish folklore even further, but I'm pretty sure it's a reference to the same thing. Next, we have Quetzalcoatl, who first appears in Castlevania Aria of Sorrow on the GBA. He is listed in that game's enemy list as the reincarnation of the ancient snake god. What this refers to is Quetzalcoatl from ancient Mesoamerican mythology, where he was the great importance to the people there. He is a combination of bird and rattlesnake, not only the creator of Earth and humanity, but the god of rain, wind, learning, and he discovered how to grow corn. That didn't stop him from being exiled by another god, though. That's sad. However, when Cortez sailed to the Americas, some natives actually mistook him for the reincarnation of that god that disappeared long ago. But they were sniffing glue. The real one was at Dracula's castle, of course. This is my personal favorite. In Kid Dracula, a spin-off game for the Game Boy, and Castlevania Order of Ecclesia for the DS, a monster called the Zhongshi makes an appearance. Coming from Chinese folklore and called kyonshi in Japan, they are usually called Chinese hopping vampires by foreigners for the sake of making a clear and concise description. Literally meaning stiff corpse in Chinese, the Zhongshi are people who died far away from their homes. They will rise from their graves and hop around, attacking people by stealing their qi, or life force. However, a priest can stop them by guiding them home and giving them a proper rest. Zhongshi are highly allergic to peaches, the same way that many Western vampires are normally allergic to garlic. Zhongshi are also weak to sunlight, and they even fear the cock's crow, as they're too stupid to know that it doesn't necessarily mean the sun isn't rising. Zhongshi also hate looking into mirrors, but whether they Whether or not they have a reflection, I'm not sure yet. Zhangshi dress in Qing Guanmao, the clothes of government officials in China's Qing dynasty, which is where the Zhangshi legends are said to originate from. Castlevania accurately portrays them in this. A reference doesn't always have to be to some epic piece of mythology, though. It could just be to a good lad making the games themselves. Enter the waiter skeleton. You can find this handsome fellow in Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, who will attack you by throwing plates of curry. Can I just take a minute to appreciate how freaking weird this series can be sometimes? First, a French maid with martial arts, and now. Anyway, this is a nod to the developer Shutaro Lida, who had a curry-filled diet while he worked on Aria of Sorrow, earning him the nickname Curry the Kid, which he is listed as in the game's credits. I'm not even joking. Moving away from monsters, the Muramasa sword first appeared as an item for the player's use in Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation 1. It is only described as the bloodthirsty sword in the game's menu, which is pretty accurate, as it will actually gradually grow in strength by absorbing blood from enemies. However, it's in reference to Sango Muramasa, a Japanese swordsman who lived during the Muromachi period, the 14th to 16th century for those who don't know. Though a master craftsman, he was also a violent psychopath, and his swords were said to be cursed, like they inherited their master's pure, unadulterated, red-hot, fiery rage. Muramasa also plays a big part in JP pop culture, and I'm really sorry, I literally cannot find any pictures of this wanker that aren't anime. Now, it's no secret that Koji Igarashi, the very director of some Castlevania games, was a big fan of the popular manga and anime series JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, the number of JoJo references in Castlevania is a rabbit hole I really shouldn't go down without giving it its own video. Unlike some, however, I am completely in lack of self-restraint, so I'm going to do that anyway. In Symphony of the Night, you can find a stone mask if you search the long library. This is, rightfully, one of the more well-known references that Koji made to JoJo. Dio, the main antagonist of JoJo, uses a stone mask to turn himself into a vampire, which he also got from a library. This is one of the more important references because, well, without the stone mask, the entire plot of JoJo basically wouldn't have happened, but we'll get there when we get there. Last but not least, also in Symphony of the Night, you can find the ape skeleton enemy, who will attack you by throwing flaming barrels. This is of course in reference to the arcade classic Donkey Kong. Why do I decide to end it like this? Because Big Monkey.